Mindful of the blessings of this rich heritage of leadership that surrounds us today, we will now proceed with the administration of the constitutional oaths of office. The Honorable Jan R. Jordan, Judge of the Superior Court, will administer the oath of office to Lieutenant Governor Denn. Will Michelle and Zach and Adam please escort the Lieutenant Governor to the platform?
Please repeat after me. I, Matthew Philip Denn,
I, Matthew Philip Denn,
do proudly swear to carry out the responsibilities
do proudly swear to carry out the responsibilities
of the office of Lieutenant Governor
of the office of Lieutenant Governor
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
freely acknowledging that the powers of this office
freely acknowledging that the powers of this office
flow from the people I am privileged to represent.
flow from the people I am privileged to represent.
I further swear
I further swear
always to place the public interests
always to place the public interest
above any special or personal interests,
above any special or personal interest,
and to respect the right of future generations
and to respect the right of future generations
to share the rich historic and natural heritage of Delaware.
to share the rich historic and natural heritage of Delaware.
In doing so,
In doing so,
I will always uphold and defend the constitutions
I will always uphold and defend the constitutions
of my country and my state.
of my country and my state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Lieutenant Governor.
Give us a moment while we attend to some child removal housekeeping. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you especially to my boys, Adam and Zach, for the longest stationary sitting period of their entire young lives. I think they acquitted themselves well. This is a great week in our state and in our country. I'm still excited by what happened yesterday in Washington, and I am proud to be sworn in alongside my good friend Jack Markell, who will be one of the state's great governors. Jack and I are both very grateful to all of you for being here with us today to celebrate this occasion. Tomorrow, though, when the celebrating is over, we will have inherited a state in financial crisis. And how you and I deal with that crisis will tell us a lot about what kind of people we really are. 60 years ago, at the dawn of a Cold War that threatened humanity, William Faulkner predicted that man would survive that crisis, not because he has an inexhaustible voice, but because he has a spirit, sacrifice, and compassion and endurance. Today, 60 years later, we are called upon to test the truth of Faulkner's prediction. Was he right? Are we willing to make the sacrifice necessary to see our state through this crisis? We can't provide much guidance from recent history because until now, the sacrifice that Faulkner spoke of was just an empty punchline in our public dialogue. Candidates for public office, myself included, routinely called upon Delawareans to sacrifice. But once elected, they rarely asked much of us. And when sacrifices were made, they were usually made by a select few, men and women in the military, first responders, and those less fortunate among us who did not choose their sacrifices. Now, that will all need to change. This economic crisis has brought us to a point where, at least in the short term, we cannot all live exactly as we once did. Better days are coming. But tomorrow, in the months ahead, many of us will need to sacrifice if we are to get our state going in the right direction. I wish there were a more graceful way to say it, but there's not. We can talk all we want about cost sharing and doing more with less, But at the end of the day, when you take away the buzzwords, this state is still $600 million in the hole. And there is no cute and painless way of fixing that. So, who will bear the cost? Who will make the sacrifice? The easy way of dealing with it is just to let the chips fall where they may. And we know what would happen then. Those who protest the most would sacrifice the least. And the long-term future of our state would give way to political expediency. That's not why I ran for office. And it's not why Jack ran for office. You elected us to make hard choices, and that's what we're going to do. And here is what we will choose. We will choose sacrifice. We will choose security tomorrow over comfort today, because that is prudent. We will choose to take special care of the most vulnerable among us, because that is right. And we will be vigilant in looking out for the children of the state who have no paid lobbyists, who make no donations to political campaigns, but who have a preeminent claim on our conscience. This approach may sound self-evident to you, but it's not. It's not. 25 years ago, a candidate for president of our country coined a phrase that changed our politics. Over and over again, he said, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" As a political slogan, it was brilliant. As a means of governing, it was corrosive. Now, don't get me wrong. My family comes before anything and anybody else. I would do anything for my wife and my boys. I would walk through fire for them. But I know in my heart, and you know in your hearts, that we must aspire to more than that. Delaware's credo cannot be, "What's in it for me?" It must be, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." Applying that principle to the crisis at hand will test us. And when I say us, I don't just mean me and Jack. Many of the hard decisions that have to be made will be made in this building right behind us. We must work with the legislature, and they must work with us if we are to save the state that we love. And some people say that watching laws get made is an unpretty process, like watching sausage getting made. Well, maybe sometimes, but let me tell you, some wonderful and historic things have happened in this building behind us in this state's greatest hours of need. It was in this house that Delaware ended race discrimination and public accommodations. It was in this house that Delaware turned away the lobbyists and turned our coastline into the treasure that it is today. It was in this house that Delaware was transformed into the financial services capital of America. There is not a doubt in my mind that today's legislators will heed the call of history just as their predecessors did. Together under this dome, we will come together as neighbors and see our state through to the other side. It can't all happen here in Legislative Hall, though. Love thy neighbor as thyself is not a principle of government. It is a solemn duty for the children of God. So, in these difficult days ahead, I hope that we will all rededicate ourselves to living out that principle in our day-to-day lives. You know, the holidays just passed, and the newspaper was full of stories about turkey deliveries and toy drives. Those are commendable. But what happens now? Those families did not stop being needy when the confetti dropped on New Year's Eve. We need to have a commitment in the years ahead to our neighbors that is real and sustained. We need foster families who are willing to take in children that are strangers to them and love them as their own. We need volunteers who are willing to help children with special needs fulfill their potential. The thousands of Delaware school children on a waiting list for mentors need people who will spend the 1 hour a week that it will take to fundamentally change those children's lives. Jack has set the perfect tone for us by declaring this upcoming weekend as a weekend of service. It's up to us to carry it forward from there. In the end, sacrificing for one another will not only help us through the trial that we face, it will also make us whole. We will, as Jack has often said, emerge from this crisis a stronger, more nimble state. We will also emerge a more united people, because our renewed dedication to one another will not end when the stock market rebounds. The bonds that we will form with our neighbors, forged in the crucible that lays ahead, will ultimately make this state a more caring, more compassionate place. And once the storm is past, we will have more than financial security. We will have one people, one Delaware, living out our sacred duty to one another and bringing the state closer to the time when all of its children can enjoy the boundless opportunity that is their birthright. Thank you very much for joining us today. Good job, man.